Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We finally hit a second week in a row. It's about time, but welcome back to the next episode. If I was thinking with Robbie McElhaney, appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate your support. Make sure you follow us on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We will be football season's coming up, so we do have some shorts planned. So be looking out for those on those platforms. What a week! What a weekend! As if you tuned in last week, you heard me talk about us going to Steel City Con, meeting John Cena. Today is Sunday, August 9th. Yesterday was Saturday, August 8th. We got to meet John Cena. We did. We'll put a picture up here. I just there are a few times I am an emotional guy. We've talked about that. But there are a few times in my life where I just don't have words, right? Um, I think if you grew up in mine and my brother's era of WWE, there are few people as polarizing as John Cena. And I think when you take a look at him, and we'll get to meeting him, but somebody that has had the influence on a generation like John Cena has, I think you have to give credit where credit's due in that situation. And you look at what he has done, Cena, and when I said what he's done, I'm referring to Cena, obviously. Um, so, I mean, professionally, 17-time WWE World Champion, between WWE Champion and World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, from that standpoint, he's got the most championships under his belt, and again, in a industry that is scripted and predetermined, um, to to be that guy to take down that record speaks volumes to him professionally. But to be able to also do it, and when you compare, take a Roman Reigns for example, who has been through the ringer physically with leukemia and such, but when you take and compare champion to champion, Cena did it week in and week out, wrestled week in and week out. Roman Reigns, you don't see. I respect Roman. I love what he's doing. I love the character work that they're doing with him right now. But it's apples and oranges in terms of comparing Cena and Roman professionally. And frankly, and I may get some heat for this, but frankly, in terms of comparing a Bruno Sammartino to a to a John Cena, it's a whole different it's a whole different game, and that is where, in my humblest of opinions, John Cena is the greatest to ever grace the squared circle. Bret Hart doesn't stand a chance in comparison to Cena. Hogan, not the same as Cena. Andre, not the same as Cena. Taker, not the same as Cena. John Cena did it week in and week out for 26 years, I think we counted at retirement. I mean, you just can't match that. And then you look at what he's done outside of the company. I mean, acting wise, some he's gotten much better. I think Ricky Stenicki is a great movie. It's hilarious. Encourage you to watch it. Um, but obviously, when he started with the Marine, that left a lot to be desired. His current roles and his current acting career, I think, is amazing. At least the transition that he's had. But outside of acting, outside of wrestling, the charity work that this man does, being like, you know, the leading wish granter for Make a Wish, and not just doing that, but the time he spends, and it's reflected too in in meeting him. I mean, so we did the photo op, um, and I mean they recommend if you want to take time with the individual, do the autograph and stuff, but there's only so much I'd pay for somebody's signature. But so we did the photo op, um, and still in that time, it's a short time there. I mean, you're in, you get your picture and you go, but he took the time to make eye contact. Hi, I'm John. You know, look you in the eye, shake your hand. It's I fangirled. I told Kid I shook his hand twice. Me and Josh left the photo op high fiving and doing all this like ooh stuff. But at the same time, that was our childhood we just met, right? And for him to take the time to, I mean, he was they were just kind of you were in and out, but he took the time to look you in the eye, shake your hand, introduce himself. He did the wrestling pose, and I was like all excited. But there are a few times you get to just meet your childhood and meet your heroes, and they say not to. John Cena to me is the exception. If you have the chance to meet him, I mean, I we were around him for 30 seconds, but he made that 30 seconds memorable. So I mean, kudos to him and what he stands for, and that's what made his career what it was. So great experience there. Steel City Con was quite the experience. I think we were gonna try to take some pictures and get some content, but I mean, you couldn't. It was wall to wall people, and I mean, and that's us deciding to go on a Saturday. You're not gonna have a ton of room for movement. So I mean, it was my first. Um, I don't know what kind of like Comic Con deal. It was the first experience I had there. You have to go. We went in with the expectation, excuse me, of we're gonna putz around, kill time. Our photo op was at 3 o'clock, so we're like, well, and we paid $60 for the day. I'm gonna go get $60 worth of a day in there, and um, so we're like, we'll putz around, we'll grab some lunch, we'll finish putzing around, and it'll be great. And we were all very wrong in that. I was not what I would consider to be a Funko Pop collector until yesterday. Um, you got to go there ready to spend some money. You'll see one here, sort of see it. Rocky Maivia, obviously I don't say obviously, that was the first character of who would become The Rock. So we got the Rocky Maivia behind the camera. I'm looking at it. Kate is a big fan of the movie Up. So we got a Carl and Ellie, the young Carl and Ellie when they're sitting in the chairs holding hands. It's romantic. It's great. It is a cool pop. It's a Disney 100 exclusive. She was very excited about that. And then another Disney. I am a Winnie the Pooh. I love Pooh. Winnie the Pooh was my another part of my childhood. I'd go up to my nana and pops, and we'd sit in their back room and watch Winnie the Pooh all the time. That was my thing. So we got a Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin Funko Pop. We got those, and a Elvis in Blue Hawaii Funko Pop. All in all, still was actually pretty decent deals. So you got to go ready to spend some money. This isn't Steel City Con, but we did want to include this. Another collection, I guess I'm starting. As you know, Josh is an avid NASCAR fan. On top of being a NASCAR fan, he is a collector of diecast cars. Always has been. I mean, he'd have. I remember growing up, he'd have races, and it would be Sunday during the race. He would print out back when you had the family desktop, and we had that in the living room, and we had the printer hooked up. And it was that big whole big desktop with the tower thing. He'd print out the lineup after qualifying. He had one of every car, and he'd line them up in the order, and he would race. And I don't know how he picked the winner or how he did any of that, but he did. And now he just collects them for funsies. And he gave me then he gave me one car out. It is back here. It's a Bush Light flannel Ross Chastain. Uh, I don't know what size it is. Official diecast. It's got a 14 on it. I forget the size that this is, but the one I have here is a 124, I believe. Yeah, 124 scale stock car. It is a Dale Jr., who is Josh's all-time favorite driver. Budweiser Elvis Presley edition, silver. Uh, metallic silver. I'm looking at myself here. King of beer, king of rock. I, I do also think I cried a little and got all giddy when he gave me this box. He'd been waiting on this to come in and waiting for it to become available. Um, I I love it. That's my little Dale Jr. Elvis. Thank you to Josh, who is going to be making a comeback on the show for all who are fans of the uh, Brotherly Banter episodes. But between his life and surgeries, it's been scheduling nightmares. But back to Steel City Con. It was quite the experience. I am not a cosplay guy, but I think it is cool that, in the same sense that you go to a Steelers game decked out in your face paint and hats and wigs and whatever the people do for Steeler games, any team. You go to Pirate games and they're standing on the rotunda with the flags and they're dressed up as pirates. When you get an outlet for like-minded people, I think that's great. I think that's what the world needs more of. So kudos to those people. Not necessarily my cup of tea, but I am all for having an outlet to express yourself and express who you are. So Steel City Con was a long day. It was tiring for those of us that were 2 weeks out of surgery, but what a great day! What a great experience meeting the never seen 17-time champion John Cena. He was a great guy. Really enjoyed that experience. Can't say enough about it. Let's move on. We got a couple things to talk about. Again, probably going to be a little bit on the shorter side. But we need to talk about Donnie Kelly. First off, the Pirates at the trade deadline. A minus, I thought, could have just been an A in terms of their grade. I love what they did. I think it's been very evident to everybody in and out of the organization that their weak point has been their bullpen. They had, not nearly enough in support in terms of bullpen support and reliever support. So they go out and get it, and Donnie Kelly doesn't know how to use it. I said it last week. I am all for Pittsburgh people leading Pittsburgh teams. You have it with the Pirates. You have it with the Steelers now, who we're going to get to in a minute. I just think at some point, because they have a playoff lineup. They do. And not a wild card lineup. They have a playoff lineup. There comes a time where you say, why isn't this being managed better? Why isn't it being managed correctly? And you have to question it. You do. I love Donnie Kelly. I like his passion. I like his fire. But also at some point when you lead the the league in ejections, and sometimes when your team's down in standings and you just need something to go, you can get ejected to get your team fired up and show it matters and all this stuff. But at some point, when is too much too much? I don't think he's conveying anything of importance in those ejections. I mean, some of them are valid. The ejection the other day about the field conditions, yes, that's a valid ejection. They should not have continued that game. I'll give you that. But then, the ticky tacky ones, just stop. Just stop. So figure out managing your team and managing your bullpen and managing your rotation, and then you can worry about getting ejected. You're not proving anything. To me, and I was all gung ho on the getting rid of Donnie Kelly, I'm going to tame it down a little bit. Pending where they are at the end of the season, which we're coming up to. I mean, it's already approaching mid-August. They need to take a good hard look at where the Pirates are, where they're headed, and should Donnie Kelly be in charge of that direction? I don't want to say yes or no because it's not my place to say yes or no. I do have my beliefs, but they need to take a look at that and say, are we headed in the right direction? And if it's yes, by all means head that way and stay the course. But if there is any hesitation or there's a no, a blatant no, why aren't we headed there? Is it management? Is it coaching? Where is it roster? I don't necessarily think it's the roster now, especially after the trades that they made and the acquisitions that they got at the deadline. I think they obviously made the financial investment that they haven't in a long time, if ever, especially under Nutting. But they need to take some time and see, are we doing this correctly, and if not, who needs to be held responsible. And sadly, that's sports. If you don't like where the organization is heading, as the administration of that organization, you need to make that decision and you need to make changes. And that is what it is. So I like Donnie Kelly. They need to really sit down and evaluate where we're headed. The next point, I said it last week, we can really say it this week. Football is back. They played football this past week. Football's getting played this coming week. Let's talk about the Hall of Fame game real quick. I was really kind of impressed with the Cardinals. I thought Carson Beck outperformed what I thought he was going to do. Obviously, he's competing really for a 2 spot, but don't be surprised if he's one of those guys mid-season becomes a 1. So I was really impressed with him. I thought Kenny Pickett was very much Kenny Pickett. And I mean, for a preseason game, it had some intensity and it had some entertainment value and excitement. But the Hall of Fame game is an exciting time. The Hall of Fame week and weekend is an exciting time. Congratulations to the class of 2026 that got inducted yesterday. Again, there are times where you just like sit back and oh, like Luke Kuechly is in the Hall of Fame. He's less than 10 years older than me. How old does that make me, or how young does that make him? It's impressive. He's the second youngest player to be inducted. Larry Fitzgerald is another guy that did everything the right way. Is a class act on and off the field, and is just an insanely incredible athlete to watch. Adam Vinatieri, Roger Craig, and Drew Brees, another guy that just embodies a we'll call it the American spirit, got adopted by the city of New Orleans and really just had a hell of a career there. So congratulations to that class. Great weekend. But moving on, football is in full swing. We got a full slate of games this week. We're not going to talk about all of them, but I am going to introduce a segment that we are going to do is a game of the week. We'll have mini helmets. We'll have matched up, and we'll talk those games and we'll talk about what's coming with them. This week, though, without the helmets, we do have a game to talk about. In Pittsburgh, at Acquashire Stadium, there will be football played Thursday night at 7 p.m. Packers versus the Steelers. I think we need to look at three specific questions. One, who is Mike McCarthy as a play caller? I think that one's really important. Coming off of last season where we had, they had some offense, but it wasn't really thrilling. I think it was very mismanaged and mishandled. I don't think, you can only call it creativity for so long before it just becomes stupidity. And so, you know, Arthur Smith's gone. Mike McCarthy's the play caller. Who is he going to be? He has the tools. They acquired tools. He had tools here. Who is he going to be as a play caller? How is he going to manage this system with a quarterback he's had a ton of experience with? So I think all of those, that question has to be answered. I don't, obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to play on Thursday, which gives you some good time to really hammer out that QB2 battle. Who's it going to be? I know in the initial depth chart that they released, it was Mason Rudolph, it was Rudolph, Howard, Aller. Um, I I don't know. I don't know the best way to handle that rotation. What you're hearing out of camp is that Aller is kind of impressing some people. He's been on the upswing, but you still have Rudolph and Howard, that have been there, have been in the league. Obviously, Howard hasn't been there but a year, but that's experience. He was hurt by this point last year, so I am excited to see him get out there and get some reps and get some experience. That QB2 battle is going to be an interesting one to sort out and just see exactly what happens. And then the third and last question is the defense back with some new additions? I know the secondary got a little bit revamped. Are they back up front? I think, the front seven is kind of where the Steelers have been the strongest. Front eight, if you include Paul Malu years ago, as a safety that essentially had a really strong presence in the box. Um, I'm really interested to see if that defense is back. Some of them are getting older, and are they back? Are they able to handle what it takes to be successful? Especially after last year where they had to carry the offense. They carried the team last year. Now with some additions to the offense and some additions to the defense, is there more of a complementary football style in Pittsburgh that is needed? We'll see. We'll see about that. Um, but those are the three questions I have going into the game. I'm sure we'll talk about it next week, or whenever I see you. But we'll talk about it next week. Exciting times in Pittsburgh. Football is back. I appreciate you tuning in. And again, like I said, another short one. We are working to get Josh back on for some brotherly banter. We'll have that coming up soon. Until then, make sure you follow us on our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Find us wherever you catch your podcast. Watch us on YouTube, and Patreon is coming. Be sure to look out for that. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time.